Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Talking Sports, episode 48. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Volkman, and this is my co-host.
Miles Shield.
Alright, we're back. Miles is once again on a virtual call here, but that's because we had to get something going quick because there's been a lot of action in the sports world, especially with the MLB Trade Deadline. Lots of great stuff to cover. We'll cover the MLB Trade Deadline last year in this episode. But we're going to go ahead and start off this episode with a now segment, news of the week. And we're going to start out by talking about a trade going on in the WNBA. And a lot of people may not know this, but right now is the WNBA trade deadline following the All-Star game. And the big trade that went down today was the Kelsey Plum trade. Alrighty, so Miles, what do you have on this trade? Because I know you have been following this more than me.
Yeah, so Kelsey Plum, a five-time All-Star in the WNBA. She's obviously hugely talented. She averaged about 23 points per game this season. She's 31 years old. She was traded from the Sparks to the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury sent back to the Sparks Monique Okoa Makani, 2027 first-round pick, and a 2028 second-round pick. I think this is a great deal for both teams. Obviously, I just think it wasn't working well with Kelsey Plum and the Sparks. Kelsey Plum's obviously been dealing with a leg injury. She's been struggling to play, but when she has played, she's undoubtedly been the best player on the Sparks. No, with Monique Okoa Makani, she is 25 years old, and she's averaging 9 points per game. So as of right now, I think the 11 and 17 Sparks are getting a young talent that could end up developing into a very solid starter. And I think the Mercury get Kelsey Plum, which is going to be a great playoff push with the playoffs just around the corner.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and move on to the next topic of story in the now segment. The ASUL championship just wrapped up. That is the Athletes Unlimited Softball League in North America, which is a league founded by the Major League Baseball to bring professional softball to America. And they just wrapped up their championship with the Utah Talons going back to back, defeating the Chicago Bandits down in Texas to claim their second straight World Series championship. With Jaden Achlin, outfielder for the Utah Talons, had 6 out of the 8 RBIs in the championship series. She wins championship MVP for the Utah Talons. So congratulations to the Utah Talons in the AUSL, the Athletes Unlimited Softball League Championship. And the final little part of the now segment we're going to cover here today is NFL training camp. It just got underway a little over a week ago, and the big division that me and Miles want to focus on here today is the NFC South in this now segment because there's been a lot of conversation around this division. The Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Saints, and the Falcons. So, Miles, what has been some of the talking points of conversation in the NFC South so far?
Yeah, the NFC South obviously is a nutcase, and it has been for the last few years. They're just always bad. There's never a clear winner. And let's talk about some of the problems that the teams are facing. Right now, the Buccaneers are kind of in shambles and not in a spot where they want to be. Vita Vea and Baker Mayfield both unhappy with their contract situations. Vita Vea has demanded a trade from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is a captain of your defense right there. That is a guy who has been with you thick and thin, and for him to come out and just flat out request a trade is very, very big, and it shows you what he thinks of the organization. And now for Baker Mayfield, he has publicly come out and said that he is offended with the contract that has been put in front of him by the Buccaneers. And I think that Baker deserves the money at this point, right? I think it's the rest of the Buccaneers that haven't made it up, right? The defense has just not been good. That offense has been very inconsistent with the receiving targets he's had. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were consistently hurt. So for the fact that Baker Mayfield was able to make something out of nothing, I think he deserved another contract. Now, from what I hear, the Buccaneers were offering a 2-year deal 2-year extension onto the 1 year he has left, giving him 3 more years with the Buccaneers. He wanted more long term. I'm not sure if they will get to an agreement at the end of this year, but I do think that Baker Mayfield will be playing on a 1 year prove-it deal, which is insane that he's still having to play on a 1 year prove-it deal after bringing this team to the playoffs multiple times. Now let's move on to the Saints. The Saints just found out that Jalen Polk, 24-year-old wide receiver, has announced his retirement. They got him in a trade from the Patriots last year. And this is a shocking one. This is a guy who was taken second round by the Patriots just a few years ago. Actually, I just saw something posted saying that the Patriots traded down, and instead of getting Lad McConkey, they ended up taking Jalen Polk, which is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
Polk, who's been dealing with injuries. I'm not sure what the exact reason for the retirement is, but he has just announced his retirement at the young age of 24. Now, the Saints also have Brian Brees, their star D tackle, going down with a season-ending ACL injury. This is huge for that Saints defense and a team that's really trying to take the next step after a solid rookie season from quarterback Tyler Shuck. This is devastating for that team. It is a very good thing. They brought back Cameron Jordan to kind of rein in that defense a little bit. But a big season is going to have to come out of Chase Young, former top pick. I think he's got to have a big season, or we're gonna see some poor defense from that Saints organization. Now going over to the Panthers, they had an ACL tear from Nick Scorton, who has from Texas A&M. They drafted him last year, I believe. He was ready to take the next step, I believe. This ACL injury obviously is setting him back, and it's devastating for that Panthers defense. But it's a good thing they have Jalen Phillips, who they signed from the Eagles. I think they're going to be okay. Now, on the last team, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, that quarterback room is interesting. They have Tua Tagovailoa and Michael Penix Jr. Both are injured. Michael Penix Jr. Recovering from that knee injury he sustained last season. And then Tua Tagovailoa has been dealing with some back tightness, back strains. It seems like it's not too serious, but it was serious enough where they had to bring in Cooper Rush, a very solid backup. Last year, he did not have a good year with the Ravens, but with the Cowboys, he was a very solid backup. I don't imagine him making the roster, but I think it's going to be an interesting route because we saw Tua get brought in as a left-handed quarterback, so they didn't have to adjust the offensive scheme for Penix or Tua. And I think we're going to, in the end, see Tua starting the first few games. And depending on how that goes will depend what happens to Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I believe, Michael Penix's third ACL tear. I don't know if it's on the same knee or not, but I know he's dealt with several ACL tears in college as well. I remember he was playing at Indiana before Mendoza and Kurt Signetti got there. And yeah, Michael Penix was coming off an ACL tear. He just transferred to Indiana, then tore his ACL later on that year, and then transferred to Washington. And that's where he ultimately found his way to become a very solid quarterback and get drafted that high. But definitely some not good news for the Atlanta Falcons. And overall, just the NFC South is in shambles to start training camp like they have been overall for the last few years. That division is just something else, I would say, Miles. The other thing I want to talk about here and get your opinion on is the two massive holdouts from two very big running backs in the NFC, Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, I believe is how you say his name. I think he specified that. Both of those, I believe, running backs are holding out for new contract extensions. What are you hearing or seeing about who may sign first? What are they looking for? And when might these contract extension negotiations be resolved for either one?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, they're both kind of like in a deadlock. They are both seeing who's going to make the first move because I have a feeling whoever makes the move, the other one's going to get paid a little bit more. Now, I do believe that Bijan Robinson is better than Jahmyr Gibbs, so I think it would make sense if Jahmyr Gibbs' deal gets done first. because if I'm the Lions, I'm trying to get that done as soon as possible so we can save a couple $1 million. I They are holding in, so if they were holding out, they'd be fined $50,000 a day, I believe, and that's just not worth it. So they are with the team; they're just not practicing. You want to get them back as soon as possible, especially for the Falcons, who lost Tyler Algier in free agency. He signed with the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Lions have a little bit more time. They signed Isaiah Pacheco, who's a very solid number two running back. But obviously, both guys deserve a lot of money, and we would love to see them back right away.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for the now segment. Unless you have any other stories from from the training camp so far, outside of the NFC South.
Well, we have seen that Miles Garrett has been out for his third day straight. He's missed another practice. We due to injury. I also saw on the Packers side of it, Matthew Golden has been lighting it up lately, which obviously we want to see after trading Dontavian Wicks to the Philadelphia Eagles and losing Romeo Dobbs to the Patriots in free agency. So a big year coming out of Matthew Golden is exciting. Also, Tucker Kraft has been activated off the PUP list, and we're waiting to see what happens with him.
Yeah, all good news for Packers fans out of training camp so far. But let's go ahead and move on from the now segment over to the main talking point of conversation that has been over the last couple of days, and that is the MLB trade deadline. And things have gotten hectic over the last, I would say, 24 hours as of late, and even beyond that, like the last 36 hours, I would say, have gotten crazy in the MLB trade deadline world. We're going to start off by talking about the first trade. A lot of starting pitchers are being moved, and that's what we're going to talk about here first. Is with our good old friend, the Chicago Cubs. They've made a move as of about, I would say, 20 minutes ago. It was just announced by Jeff Passan of ESPN that the Chicago Cubs are trading for Toronto Blue Jays right-handed starting pitcher Kevin Gossman in exchange for infield prospect Ty Southazine and outfield prospect Brett Bateman. So the Chicago Cubs, who are a team desperately in need of some starting rotation help, just got a really solid starting pitcher from the Blue Jays in Kevin Gossman. So, in my opinion, real quick, Miles, before I ask you what you think, this is a good trade by the Chicago Cubs. Kevin Gossman, a very quality starting pitcher, and at the worst will give you quality innings. And the Blue Jays getting two prospects in Ty Southazine and Brett Bateman. Ty Southazine is definitely the more bigger prospect in this. He is the brother of Atlanta Braves top prospect Tate Southazine. Ty was drafted in the same 1 year later. He was in last year's draft, the 2025 draft, but he is definitely the headliner of this, and I would say he has the best shot out of the two prospects to turn into something else. But Miles, what would you think about this trade?
I think it's a very solid trade. I think the Cubs needed another starting pitcher. Uh, Toronto obviously is not playing at the same level they were last year when they made their World Series run. So I think it's a fine trade. I think there's other trades that are overshadowing it right now.
Absolutely, and also I think the Cubs did make another trade for another starting pitcher. I'm trying to find the other trade that they made. I'll when I find it, I'll talk about it. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next trade that I want to talk about. That also happened today, or one of the other trades that happened today, and this was the New York Yankees acquiring first baseman Luis Garcia Jr. from the Washington Nationals in exchange for four pitchers. And this is a very interesting trade. So the Nationals are receiving Jake Bird, who's a reliever and has spent several years in the major leagues. He's down AAA right now for the Yankees. Giovanni Cruz, who is a very has a lot of good stuff. He's got a really good fastball and made his major league debut earlier this year for the Yankees. Jack Siebert or Kebert, I don't know how to say that name. Sorry. He's the number 14 overall prospect for the New York Yankees in Double A right now. And then Ben Grable, who is a Double A reliever who also was in the All Star Futures game for the New York Yankees. So some good stats over there for Ben Grable. And this is a trade for the Yankees to bring some more offense into that lineup with major stars on their offense out with injuries like Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger, and Giancarlo Stanton all on the injured list. So the Yankees, if they want to continue contending for the AL East, they're battling with the Tampa Bay Rays right now, and they desperately need some more power, and they got it with Luis Garcia Jr., who has hit a lot of home runs this year. 23 home runs, has the highest slugging percentage in all of Major League Baseball. So a lot of power with Luis Garcia Jr. He has, I believe, one more year of control for the Yankees. I'm not sure how long term Garcia fits into this lineup with the Yankees because it's another left handed bat. And even before the Yankees brought him in, they were already pretty lefty heavy. So, long term, not sure how this works out, but in the short term, the Yankees getting some good power with Luis Garcia Jr. So, Miles, what do you think about this trade?
I think this is a great trade for the Yankees. Luis Garcia Jr. is having a phenomenal year, batting 283. You said 23 home runs. He is top five in RBIs with 76. He is playing very good baseball right now, and that's something the Yankees haven't been doing. The Yankees have not been hitting the ball well, and that's something the Yankees are known for. I think it's a great move. I don't love the move for the Washington Nationals. I understand why you got rid of Garcia. I understand you're in more of a selling mode. But getting four pitchers back, to me, doesn't make the most sense. Uh, but I think the Yankees, like the Dodgers, which we'll talk about later, they can get rid of any minor league players they want because they have the money to get whatever major league pitchers they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I found the other trade that the Cubs made. They sent Jameson Taillon to the Blue Jays earlier today before they made the Kevin Gossman trade, and I believe the Cubs are getting some money in return from the Blue Jays, and they're getting a future player possibly. So that was probably like that was the precursor to the Kevin Gossman trade. So just wanted to follow up on that. Anyways, moving on, we got to talk about another trade that went down today involving the Tampa Bay Rays and the other New York team, the New York Mets. And the New York Mets sent former Milwaukee Brewers ace and most loved Milwaukee Brewer probably in the last couple of years, Freddie Peralta, to the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for three prospects. Aiden Smith, the Rays number 15 prospect. He is an outfield prospect. How about this name, Miles? I bet you'll love this name. Right-handed pitcher Gary Gill Hill. That's a name. That is a name. I don't know about you, but that is a great name.
I love it.
And then, sorry, I might butcher this name. It's an infield prospect, Emilian Petrie. I don't know a lot about him. I'm sorry. But he's an infield prospect. He's the 27th ranked prospect in the Tampa Bay Rays system. So the Rays get Freddie Peralta, who's not having a good season, but surely will help and be an impact starter alongside Drew Rasmussen, another former Brewers pitcher. Back in 2021, he was with the Brewers, now on the Rays. So he was a part of the Willie Adames trade, actually. But the Rays getting Freddie Peralta, another frontline star to help them on their postseason push, possibly to contend for a World Series, which I'll be honest, I did not think they would be, doing this year based off how poorly last year went. But Miles, what's your take on this Freddie Peralta trade?
Uh, if I'm Freddie, I'm obviously happy to get out of the New York Mets organization. They've just been awful, and it's a circus over there. And I think going to Tampa Bay, which is a team that's been doing well, and it's a team that has better pitching coaches, in my opinion. So I just think there's going to be a lot of less pressure on Freddie Peralta to do good, and I think that will make him a lot better. And I think playing for a smaller market than what New York is, I do think that his numbers will get better. I think this is a great move for the Rays, and I mean the Mets had to get rid of him at this point.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned smaller market. Feels like the Brewers are like the AL version of the Rays are the AL version of the Brewers. So I like that comparison. Maybe Freddie will feel a little bit more home down in Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg. I actually drove past the Trop one time, and this is completely irrelevant to the Freddie Peralta trade, but that stadium is ugly. I just gotta say that real quick. That stadium, the Trop, is ugly. But anyways, not here to bash the Trop where the Rays play. We have trades to cover, and the next one, another starting pitcher. The Chicago White Sox acquired Luis Castillo from the Seattle Mariners yesterday in exchange for an interesting return. Reliever Seranthony Dominguez, Nolan Jones, a former top outfield prospect with the Cleveland Guardians and the Colorado Rockies, and then minor league catching prospect Boston Smith. Man, that's another name. A lot of names being thrown into this in these trades that are being very interesting. Anyways, Miles, do you have anything to say real quick before I steal your thunder on this trade?
No, go ahead.
Alrighty, so the White Sox getting Luis Castillo is another veteran starting pitcher that they desperately need to pair with Noah Schultz and all the youth and inexperience in that White Sox rotation, who are currently leading the AL Central right now, which is insane to say. But giving up this haul is very interesting from the White Sox, giving up Seranthony Dominguez, who is one of their better relievers this season. Nolan Jones, who, has kind of been a man without a position, been a guy off major league rosters for the last couple of years. He just can't hit, and he's not a very good outfielder. Got a good arm, but that's about it. And then Boston Smith, you're kind of taking a flyer on if you're Seattle, getting another catcher prospect in there. Plus, again, awesome name, and I'm one that is always up for players with awesome names. I mean, the Brewers have guys in their organization like Jesus Made and Ricky Monies. Like those are cool names. Anyways, so I don't know about that return for the White Sox. I feel like they're giving up for a guy in Luis Castillo who's 33 years old, has an ERA over 5, is having his worst season of his entire career, and they're absorbing all of the money for this season and possibly next season if they choose to accept the vesting option for next season on Luis Castillo. But overall, White Sox are getting a difference maker pitcher that, or at least a player that can be a difference maker pitcher down the line in Luis Castillo, who brings a lot of experience to this organization. Miles, I'll ask you again. Do you have anything on this trade?
You kind of said it. I mean, Luis Castillo, I think it's a good playoff push, in my opinion, because I think it's a guy who's going to help win now, which is what you want to do when you're leading a division. So I think it's the right move for the White Sox.
Yeah. I know it's not like it's definitely a playoff push move. Like I agree with that, but it's not a World Series move. Let's be very clear about this. The White Sox are very far away from contending for a World Series if they can beyond this season because they have a lot of youth on that team. This is definitely a push that will guarantee them a spot in the postseason and guarantee them some, competitive, competitive play throughout the next 2 months in the MLB season. Because again, very young team, led by a lot of young, very talented players, and Colson Montgomery at shortstop, as well as some very talented catchers like Kyle Teal behind the plate and Munetaka Murakami, who we have talked about a lot on this show, and Noah Schultz I already mentioned, and Grant Taylor in the bullpen, who has been very solid this season. But definitely a very solid move by the Chicago White Sox. But now we get to move on to the final trade that we got to cover today, or at least the bigger trades. The big one that went down late last night, which I hate because it was so late at night. I was going to bed and I checked my phone, and what do you know, this trade pops up because my phone's turned off. But anyways, the Los Angeles Dodgers made the trade. They acquired Tarek Skubal, the two-time reigning Cy Young in the AL from the Detroit Tigers, in an absolute blockbuster trade in exchange for three prospects. Zaire Hope, who's an outfielding prospect, he's a top 25 prospect in the MLB. River Ryan, who is a top 100 prospect in the MLB, according to MLB Pipeline. And Brady Smith, the number 17 overall ranked prospect in the Los Angeles Dodgers system. And yes, this is a blockbuster trade, and I have a lot to say about this. So that's why I'm going to let Miles, if he's ready, to give his little his 2 cents on this, because I have a lot to say, and it's going to take a while for me to talk, and I'm afraid, Miles, you won't get a shot, so go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to say it. I hate it. I hate it, and baseball is ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball is ruined without a doubt in my mind. I said it on last show that one way or another, within the next 2 years, Tarek Skubal will be a Los Angeles Dodger. And here we go. It has happened. And I was talking to my dad about this, actually, and he said the Dodgers could give up any minor league player they wanted because they have so much money that they get everyone else's major league stars. And I think it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. But you have a team like the Brewers who need those players to come up, right? We have the guy who right now looks like he's going to win Cy Young. And guess what? We developed him. We did not take him from anyone else. You look at Cooper Pratt, who's been dominating. You look at Luis Lara. You look at Bryce Ray, Jackson Churio. Guess what? We developed those guys, right? The Dodgers, they didn't develop Shohei, didn't develop Freddie Freeman, they didn't develop Scuba, they didn't develop Blake Snow. All these guys that they just took from other teams. Guess what? Guess what? Both the Dodgers and the Brewers are 69 and 42. And Milwaukee's payroll is is like a sliver of what the Dodgers are. So yes, I think that is proof that money can't buy wins, but it can buy World Series. And I think that's what the Dodgers just did. Because guess what? When Milwaukee has to go and play the Dodgers to get into the World Series again, and we're facing Shohei one night, Scooble, Yamamoto, Blake Snell. It's going to be impossible to get past them because guess what? Maybe we can hold them, right? Miz has a good game, whatever. We're not going to be able to hold their offensive power like Shohei, like Freeman, like all the other guys they have on that team. And I just think it makes me so mad that he didn't go anywhere else. But on the Tigers side, they got good prospects, which is what they wanted, and a guy who's not putting up his best season yet. So I think the Tigers had to make the move. I think that Scooble's about to sign a huge contract with the Dodgers, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. So Miles, I for the most part I agree with what you're saying, but there's some things that I think are simply not true. Like the prospects that the Tigers got back in this trade, they're good. Zaire Hope is a top 25 prospect in baseball. River Ryan somehow is a top 100 prospect in baseball, even though he's 28 years old. Yeah, they got good prospects. These prospects will be good. Good MLB players for the Tigers. My thing is, though, I have three things that I really hate about this, and I'm sorry, Miles, that I'm kind of, stealing your thunder here. There's three things that I really hate about this trade. One, the Tigers made a terrible trade. They made a terrible trade in the sense that they traded Tarek Skubal, who is the most valuable pitcher on the market, for a not even the best prospect package they could have gotten. The Brewers, they could have matched or even put out a better prospect package than this. The Dodgers, they bought low. They sent a low ball package to the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers could have gotten a much better deal from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Zaire Hope, he may be a top 25 prospect in baseball, but he has strikeout concerns that are similar to Andrew Fisher in the minor leagues. And Andrew Fisher is not a top 100 prospect. He's a really talented third baseman with great power potential. Zaire Hope, meanwhile, has the same strikeout concerns, but doesn't have, the same. He has more prospect type because he's on the Dodgers. River Ryan, I just mentioned it. He's 28 years old. He's a starting pitcher that converted from a shortstop to be a starting pitcher and has had two separate Tommy John surgeries in the past 3 seasons. And yet he's a top 100 prospect. That is insane. If Zaire Hope is not the main prospect or the main player in this package, and it's River Ryan, that doesn't make sense. And then Brady Smith, he's a good prospect, and if he's the guy that the Tigers are taking a flyer on as like someone who's a little bit more unknown, that's not a very exciting prospect. He's 17th overall in the Dodgers system. Doesn't have very electric stuff compared to another guy like Miz. He doesn't have that type of stuff. It's a very underwhelming package, and the Tigers didn't have to make this trade. They could have easily held out if the Dodgers so desperately wanted him, which the Dodgers did. The Dodgers were aggressively trying to get Scooble. The Tigers could have held out for so long to get the best possible prospect package because the Dodgers farm system is absolutely loaded with amazing players. This could have easily been a 4-player to 5-player trade in a return that the Tigers got, and Zaire Hope would not be the main prospect getting back. That is one of my major things I have with this trade, that the Tigers chose to make this trade a full 72 hours basically before the trade deadline, and it wasn't even the best package. They were under no rush to make this trade, and that's why this prospect return is so underwhelming for Tigers fans. I'm sorry for them because Zaire Hope, he's good. The Dodgers have developed him and turned him in from a 5th-round pick to possibly a guy that is going to be a very solid outfielder. River Ryan, they turned him from a shortstop into a quality starting pitcher in the MLB with good stuff. And Brady Smith was an 11th round pick who they turned into a top 30 prospect. So credit to the Dodgers for doing this and developing these players. As contrary to what like Miles has said, like they do a good job at developing players. It's just like they choose to send these players away to get these stars. That is just my that's one of the many things I have about this trade that makes it so bad that the Tigers were under no rush to make this trade, and they could have gone so much better because the Brewers could have offered something like this and easily gotten away with this. Now I don't know if the Brewers did offer a trade package to Scooble. I don't know if it was something they were aggressively trying to pursue Scooble for. I have to imagine the Brewers were in on it because he's just Scooble is one of the best, and the Brewers need him, and they probably could have offered a better prospect package than this. And I'm not willing to blame the Brewers if they haven't, we haven't been told that the Brewers sat on their hands and did nothing. I'm more mad at the Tigers for going out and taking this trade package that is so very underwhelming. And now Tarek Skubal is going to go ahead and probably sign a big extension in the offseason before the lockout happens, because it will. The lockout's going to happen. And that contract's going to get grandfathered in by MLB when the cap or whatever gets, installed and baseball comes back. So it won't make a difference that, a new system is in place to limit salaries. The Dodgers are still going to have an expensive team no matter what. It's just so frustrating that the Dodgers continue to do this. And I'm not even mad that the Dodgers got Scooble like in that fact. I'm mad more at the Tigers for doing this. It's yeah, like the Dodgers did a move that, they can go ahead and make to better their team, which is their right to do. They have every right to do that, and it's the fault of every other organization, all 29 other organizations for letting this happen, and especially the Tigers for taking this trade. It's just so frustrating, and I'm sweating from all the yelling I'm doing right now. So I'm sorry, Miles, if I'm blasting out your eardrums, but this is just so
No,
frustrating. Yeah.
no, I completely agree. I think that it. I just think baseball is ruined at this point, and that is why I am so excited for football to come back.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm more sad that the MLB we're probably not gonna have all of 2027 to watch the MLB. Like we're gonna have to wait until 2028 to watch the best baseball players in the world play the game that I love. I know you love it too, Miles. Not as much as football. I know that for sure. But I'm just so sad that it's like I'm like this is the reality that we're gonna live in. Like the lockout was gonna happen even before this trade went through. And I'm not even mad about that in this case. Like I know I am, but that's not the main thing I'm mad at. It's just this trade is so incredibly dumb from the Tigers to take it, and yeah, this is oh man, I am so like this is I think that might be like the most livid and most like the most I've expressed my anger on this show. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this is the most anger I've expressed on the here.
And we love it, Andrew. It's great. It's great work for the show.
Yeah, I don't know. This trade is crazy. Can't believe the Dodgers were able to fleece the Tigers like this because that's what it is. It's a fleece job by the Los Angeles Dodgers to get this trade for Tarek Skubal. Oh man, there's so many more things that I have to say like that involve this trade, like that come off this trade, but I'm gonna save that for later. Like it revolves more around the salary cap and all the CBA negotiations, like between the owners and the players. That it's not worth talking about here. So yeah. Anyways, that's like the big trade. That's the biggest trade of the MLB trade deadline. That Scooble's going to the Dodgers. I do want to talk about one other thing we we were proved wrong about on this show. The Minnesota Twins are another team that have bought at this trade deadline. Contrary to what you and me, Miles, have we said that the Twins are going to be sellers. They have not been sellers. They actually have gone out and gotten a few pitchers. They traded for AJ Minter of the New York Mets and Dean Kremer of the Baltimore Orioles, who's a starting pitcher. So the Twins are going out to try to win this division with Joe Ryan and Byron Buxton. So and it doesn't seem like the Twins have any intentions of trading either of those two. So that's something that we may have gone wrong, but it's impressive to see the Twins, even though they've been mediocre at best, they're still going for a division win over the Chicago White Sox and the Cleveland Guardians at this trade deadline. And then the Brewers also made a trade. They got Bo Naylor and Cody Hoyer from the Cleveland Guardians for Blake Perkins and Craig Yoho. not the biggest trade, but for all the Brewer fans like you and me, Miles, that's something worth noting on this. That the Brewers haven't been entirely, doing nothing at the trade deadline. They just, haven't made anything crazy yet. But maybe the Brewers are going to go out and get some other pitchers. Maybe they're going to go get more pitchers than the Dodgers instead of the one big arm that they got for Skubal, like the Dodgers got. So I guess that's the only thing we can hope for, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think I've definitely spent enough time ranting on here. I feel like this entire last 15 minutes have just been me ranting. So we're gonna.
Hey, that's okay. Usually it's me, so it's good we got a little change.
I hope that's a good thing. I hope that's a good thing. Alrighty. I think we spent enough time here. We'll probably be back soon to cover more trade deadline things that go down. I definitely will be posting stuff on YouTube, like these posts on YouTube. So you can go check those out there to get information from us about these trades. Can't promise any opinions or anything because you can only fit so much into a YouTube post. But yeah, more deadline stuff is on the way. It's not over yet. We still got a little under 24 hours until the trade deadline is over, but so much more chaos is yet to unfold. So I think that's going to do it for us, Miles. Do you have anything else to say before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm good. I think we covered it.
Alrighty. I think that is a perfect way to end it all. So I'm sorry, everybody at home, if you are, you're not happy that this turned into a rant from Andrew. But I feel like I need to just get it out there because I am brimming with anger towards the Detroit Tigers, especially. I've dissed them so much on here. What's one more episode to add on to the flames of this? Okay, anyways, that's going to do it for us. Hope you all enjoyed and you somehow liked my rant. And I think that's going to do it for us. So, with that, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Miles.
And we'll see you in the next episode of Talking Sports. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.